This is your reality check.
Hi everyone, and welcome to The Reality Check, the Canadian show that explores a wide range of controversies and curiosities using science and critical thinking. I am your host, Darren McKee, and with me, as usual, is Adam Gardner.
What's up, Cuboids?
We have a great show for you today. I'm going to explore deaths in Europe from excessive heat versus deaths in the United States from guns. But first, Adam, why is Superman dressed like that?
That is a great question. Why does Superman wear a cape? Why is he dressed like that? Why are any superheroes dressed like they are? Some of these outfits I never really wondered about, but it's a question worth asking because many superhero outfits are a product of their time, and they make sense in that time. And when we're really far removed from them, we wouldn't think about it. So I had this segment idea when I recently saw a video by author Jason Pargin looking at the origins of Superman's outfit. I think he was mostly right about some things, but there's maybe still a bit more to dissect there. So let's start with Superman. He wears tights. What's that about? Well, superheroes wear tights, right? But why do superheroes wear tights? I mean, what's the deal? I think in all my very long lifetime, I've never actually worn tights. It's just not a thing that I would do, but I'm not Superman.
You're not a superhero.
I'm not a superhero. But why do superheroes do it?
If so facto.
So Darren, not to put you too much on the spot, but you are a Superman fan.
That's true.
Do you have thoughts or a theory on where Superman's costume and cape came from, what they would have been inspired by?
Yes. So this is not true knowledge, but half poorly remembered recollection of the things I have already known. Mm-hmm. And I do know the guy from Facebook you're talking about, the pagan guy. So my understanding, at least my memory, is that they were inspired by the strongman of the time.
Okay.
And so that at least explains kind of the underwear-ish look.
Yeah.
Why there's tights, because he wouldn't just be in bare legs, I guess, but that doesn't really explain something. Anyway, that's all I got for you regarding...
Oh, okay, so you're also looking for an in-universe explanation for the tights.
Well, no. I'm even thinking, like, you could imagine, maybe even for, I don't know, not decency purposes, but they're not going to have... just a guy in his underwear.
Oh, I see. So you can still see his
40s.
muscles, even
Correct.
if it's form-fitting.
Correct.
Interesting.
And then the underwear was kind of like wrestler, strongman type vibe. The cape, maybe we'll get to it. I don't have any theory on that aside from I'm kind of amused. Like when they say, like, oh, superheroes have capes, like, you mean the two of them. Like Batman and Superman.
Yeah. There actually aren't that many.
Now there are, like, Martian Manhunter, I guess. And then sometimes Thor, these other people, or Doctor Strange. But most of the time, they don't have capes.
Yes.
But we tend to think of them having capes.
Yes, we think of the prototypical superhero with a cape, even if you put down the numbers, maybe it's 20%, maybe 30%.
I mean, a younger generation might be like, what you talking about? Because they don't play with DC like we used to.
Yeah. So that's actually not bad, Darren. So let's kind of tease that apart. So Superman is a comic book superhero. He's created by Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster. Joe Shuster, being the artist, is likely responsible for the look, and the comic was first published in 1938. Early comic strips of Superman, for which no art remains, had him wearing a bat-like cape, but no costume, so the cape was there pretty early on in the design. An unpublished comic, The Superman, from 1933, has a character who appears shirtless, and art from 1934 and 35 shows Clark Kent and Superman, where Superman has a tight costume and a cape, so that's closer to the version we know now. So much to say, this dates from the 1930s, and we need to put ourselves in that time frame to understand the costume. I was not alive in the 1930s, so I don't have first-hand experience with that. I'm old. I'm not that old. So the tight-fitting outfit was likely inspired by, kind of like you said there, Darren, strongmen of the time. So mainly outfits of circus performers. So I looked up images of 1930s strongmen, and a lot of these were wearing something like a one-strapped unitard, like kind of on the one side, like Andre the Giant.
I was just used to wear, like Andre, yes.
Mm-hmm. And other times it's just the bottom shorts with no shirt. But circus strongmen, they had sort of flashier outfits, and they're sometimes depicted with something resembling Superman's tights. So you'll, for example, have a one-piece suit with a belt over it, and there's a sort of V shape in the front. This would showcase the leg muscles and the bare arms. These are kind of things you want to see. Pro wrestlers of the time sort of looked like this too. So strongman was maybe a little more practical and still showing off the body, whereas like the circus performer and the pro wrestler was a little bit more shiny for show, and the tights was more in that vein.
And there could also be you had to have something shinier for the audience that's maybe further back in the stands.
Yeah.
Right? It really is a circus. Well, the strongman, I'm not sure to what extent you need to see him as clearly, or maybe someone was just watching him lift stuff.
Mm-hmm. We see so much on TV these days, but when you go to like, you know, my daughter did a bit of ballet, so, you know, her friends do dance and stuff like that. So they always really do this really exaggerated makeup and stuff like that. And it's like, well, the reason is you need to see it from really far.
Yeah.
So if you see like a rock star or a pop star doing a show, it's like, oh my God, they got this crazy makeup. It's like, yeah, because you're not supposed to be watching it on TV. You're supposed to be watching from the nosebleeds, right?
Yeah.
And from there, you can actually see their eyes when they have that ridiculous makeup, right?
True.
So you got to put things in that context. So yes, that may be part of it. What's it look like in a big top versus what's it look like in a photo, right?
Mm-hmm.
So in the 21st century, we never really see anything like this. And honestly, it hasn't been a thing in my lifetime, like that particular kind of suit. But I suppose some late 20th century professional wrestlers looked a bit like this. So you often see like short shorts, sometimes sort of tight-fitting top, and the championship belt over it is kind of like Superman's belt. So it's hard to see much of Superman in a modern professional wrestler, but you might say that they're both inspired by similar things.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I'll also just add that although it's tempting to think, weren't there all these other superheroes around? There weren't. In a way, Superman's like the first one.
Yes.
And I don't know if you get to this, but largely there was Zorro and the Shadow, and like that's it.
Yes.
And so maybe there was some, you know, small like cartoon strip comics, but those hadn't really come in yet either. So there wasn't necessarily all these other things to draw upon versus the limited set of which they knew.
Yeah, it's sometimes like that. It's hard to appreciate the things that are groundbreaking when everything since did something similar until you put yourself in the time.
Yeah.
You know, you show someone the movie The Matrix and they're just like, okay, it's just like an action movie, and be like, yeah, because everyone wanted to look for the Matrix for the next 15 years. But this movie was amazing, right?
Yes, or even something very iconic like, say, Darth Vader's helmet.
Yes.
You're like, now it exists, but at one time it didn't. Like someone just came up with it, and now there's this thing that seems like it's always been.
Yeah. So what about the cape? The cape makes him fly, right? That's like the idea, right? But why?
Well, no, it might look good, but no.
Yeah, you're saying like in universe, no, Superman's cape does not make him fly.
No, there's no causal relationship.
No. So
initially, of course, he also used to jump. He could not fly.
That's right. And yes. So when he becomes public domain, you'll only be able to have a jumping Superman for like a year or something like that. Anyway, we'll deal with that when Superman becomes public domain.
Like the first seasons of Smallville.
Yes. So then Batman's cape's a bit different, right? What does it do? So I can picture a cape that is maybe semi-rigid, helping someone glide. But Superman's cape doesn't look anything like, you know, a Batman cape.
No.
So I don't think it would functionally help him fly.
It may act as a drag, or if he uses it to turn, it could help him. But,
help him bank a little.
Yeah, exactly. But I've never seen him grab the side of his cape to turn.
No, I don't think so. So in the video, a Jason Pargin video, he suggests the cape signals a vigilante because, like you mentioned, Zorro. So Zorro is a fictional character created in 1919. He is a masked vigilante, which would have been popular in the 1930s when Superman was conceived, much more popular then than he is now. The character does persist to this day, but like he would have been more of the time back then.
Yes.
So there was a film starring Antonio Banderas that was out late enough in my lifetime that I saw it in theaters. But Zorro doesn't fly. He wore a cape because it was reminiscent of a Spanish nobleman's clothing. And these days, you don't often see capes as part of a man's attire. So it's like, here was some nobleman's clothing that became a vigilante that inspired a superhero that persists in the idea of superheroes these days, but disappeared from the world of clothing for the most part.
Which now, maybe this is your next point. People used to wear capes. In general. Like, not everyone, of course.
That's a little wild.
Just used to have a cape here and there.
Sure.
And it was seen as, you know, I don't know, part of the culture and the fashion for a particular subset of people in a certain demographic in a certain place. And now, rarely do you see someone with a cape.
And it's easy to judge, but like, there are things that we wear that are ridiculous, and like a tie is not functional, but whatever. It's just a thing that persisted and the cape did not, you know?
Listeners, write in, would you prefer a cape or a tie if you had to wear one to work?
Ooh, I might feel cool in a cape. So is that the whole story? Now, I don't know that I'd really think of Superman as a vigilante, although he technically is. I think of like Batman as a vigilante, you know?
Yeah. We've always been criminals, Alfred.
Yeah. Batman knows he's a vigilante. Superman's just a guy who's trying to do good things. But the cape does seem practical for the medium. Remember that Superman did not start out as a film. He is a comic strip and comic book character portrayed in still images. So a cape, when a character is in flight, will drag behind the character. It is a useful method of illustrating motion. I've also seen it mentioned that it's easy to draw. So the cape can basically hide some details of the costume. If you've got to churn out comic strips every single day,
Yes.
having something easy to draw
True.
is going to save
fills
you
up
a lot of time.
some of the backspace. Also, since Superman is largely like primary colors,
Yep.
if you didn't have the bright red cape, you'd have the boots, but it wouldn't. You have yes, of course.
Yeah.
It wouldn't pop as much.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Also, the comic strip obviously came first, like the Action Comics and then the comic strips. But Fleischer cartoons
Yep.
would have also looked beautiful. I mean, they do, with an animated cape. And if there was no cape, it wouldn't look as good.
Yeah, so obviously when you move into video, the flowing cape creates a very good visual, but I don't think they had the foresight of, oh, this is going to be in video someday. I mean, like, I just want to make a little money and publish this in a newspaper.
So we just looked it up in real time, and the Fleischer cartoons came out about 3 years after the debut of Superman comics. So that's pretty quick.
Pretty quick turnaround, yeah.
It's actually faster than a lot of things nowadays.
Yeah, unless they plan on it. It's something we'll get to later. Sometimes they're almost simultaneous. But yeah.
I don't think they could have known how successful it would be.
No, I don't think so. It was probably a runaway hit.
Yeah.
So other superheroes wear capes because Superman wear a cape. I think that's a lot of why later superheroes had that design. You don't necessarily need to say that Batman had a cape because of Zorro. Maybe he had a cape because of Superman, but maybe he did have a cape because of Zorro because he is a little more Zorro-like in his actions.
Also, if you're trying to look like a bat, the cape really helps.
That's true. He is like a bat.
If you don't have the cape, you're like, what are you, putting your hands up and pretending?
So maybe that's backwards where they're like, oh, here's a cool, like, superhero with a cape, and he kind of looks, maybe I'll make him like a bat because, I don't know all the inspiration. So there may be actual inspiration from the bat for Batman. That's fair.
Follow up another episode.
Yeah. So similarly, other comic superheroes who are wearing bright colored tights are basically dressed like Superman. I would argue that they are not being dressed like circus strongmen and professional wrestlers of the 1930s, especially if these are characters that were created in like the 50s, 60s, 70s. Most of the X-Men, they still wear spandex. I think they wear spandex because it was just, at that point, superheroes wore tights, even if it was not common in the rest of the world. Outside of like, I don't know, ballet and gymnastics or something like that.
Well, yeah, Wonder Woman has the primary colors, just a different...
Yep. Yeah, Wonder Woman's kind of... I'll talk about Wonder Woman in a bit. I found another video which breaks down caped heroes into separate categories, offering different justifications for each, and I found that interesting. So one is flying heroes. We associate flying heroes with capes because of Superman. While I've mentioned different possible origins, there's still the idea that persists that the cape makes you fly. So in Super Mario World, video game for Super Nintendo, when you get the feather... it gives you a cape that lets you fly. Mario does this thing where he holds the cape so that it works as a sort of mini parachute and you can kind of bounce in the air.
Which is cute.
It's a very functional use of the cape. But when you just run and jump with the cape, it makes you fly, and the physics of that doesn't really make sense. Like, how is the cape making Mario fly? Other than the fact that, like, he's dressed like Superman.
Yeah.
Who also flies.
I mean, didn't we accept in Mario 3 that he turns into like a raccoon and that makes him fly?
Yes. Yeah, they'll use the raccoon tail.
Well, right. So
he shakes the tail.
I mean, yes, of course. Now that you say it out loud, it makes so much more sense. So yes, he shakes the raccoon tail, which makes him fly.
And raccoons don't fly. The Tanuki has magic, but...
Sure.
Yeah.
And so, like, yes, but cape, you're right. Because of Superman, cape means you can fly.
Yes. It's weird.
Almost.
It's weird.
Even though Batman, we know, can't fly.
Yeah. And in Super Mario World, if you hold the A buttons, you slowly drift down. But the cape, like, he's not holding the cape like a parachute. He just has the cape and he's like floating. We're like, why? So Batman in some incarnations will have like a semi-rigid cape that'll help him glide. Would this really work? Well, I wouldn't trust it enough to try it, but there is some basis in physics for that. It kind of makes sense. Like, you could have a gliding suit and you kind of have sort of wings, but you're not gonna float like Batman does in like Batman.
You pass an electrical current through it, Adam, and it becomes rigid.
Yes. I mean, I appreciate that Christopher Nolan tried to make it as realistic possible in Batman Begins. I think those are the better Batman movies, but yes, you're right. So a second kind of cape is a functional cape. So Batman uses the cape to block bullets, and like I mentioned, to glide. Moon Knight and Spawn, they seem to use their capes functionally, right? They're kind of fighting with the cape. A third type of cape is for magic users. So Doctor Strange, Scarlet Witch, and such people. And the video argues that Merlin the Magician was an old man wearing a large robe and a hat, and that the cloaks became capes. I don't know if I totally buy that. I don't think a cloak really looks like a cape, but that's kind of the idea.
No, but there is a bit of like the flowy, roby, material, capey vibe.
Yeah, you can do like the magic where you're flipping around a cape to put some accent on it.
Oh, yeah, you've concealed something.
I'm just not sure like the stage magician is really like Merlin inspired.
Oh, that's fair.
Right? And the other one is for power. So these are like characters that are smarter. He argues that capes were once a statement of status and power, and that may persist. I'm thinking maybe like Ozymandias or something like that. You know?
Yeah, well, this then goes to like the robes that kings wore.
Yes.
Which
yes,
is,
exactly.
it's, you know, you could say it's a very thick cape.
Yeah.
But robe is a better
it's
descriptor.
a different kind of thing. Yeah. So really, I think Superman had a cape. I think we have ideas of where that might have come from. Probably Zorro. And later, superheroes had capes because Superman had a cape. I think that's what it is. It's not all of them, but it's a few.
Since we're on the topic of capes and whatnot, Man of Steel, which is a movie I quite enjoy. Spoilers, by the way. At the very end, there's a bit of a pseudo flashback where Clark's Earth parents are looking at him as a child, and he is sort of pretending to be what then we think of as Superman, because he has a towel attached to his shoulders, and he's striking a Superman pose. But of course, in that universe, Superman does not yet exist.
Yes.
So who is he pretending to be? Like, it's not clear. A child would naturally pretend a towel's a cape unless they had some cultural incentive or inspiration.
Because Superman, Man of Steel, does not take place in the 1930s.
Correct.
It takes place in 20-something.
Yes.
Presumably in a world in which other superheroes exist who have capes, even though the Superman character can't have existed because he is Superman.
Right.
So this is where, like, when you watch a zombie movie, it's like
they've never seen zombie movies.
A world where zombie movies don't exist.
Yes, exactly.
So someone turns it. No one thinks like, "Oh my god, it's a zombie!" And if he bites you, you're going to turn into a zombie because, like, if you have zombie movies in a zombie movie, it's a little weird, right?
Immediately, someone would say, "Isn't this like the Walking Dead,
Dawn of the Dead,
or you know whatever it's 28 Days Later?" And they'd be like, "This thing, isn't it like that?" No, it's like this other one, and you'd have a long nerdy discussion maybe while you're scared. But I do think it's a great cinematographic moment where the kid is standing there posing, and the music comes in like the man he's going to be, and you're like, who's he pretending to be?
Maybe he's pretending to be Batman because Batman does exist in that universe, and Batman is quite a bit older than Superman in Batman v Superman.
You could say he's channeling his own future. I prefer that one.
Yeah, I don't know, but there are, and maybe Batman's inspired by the Grey Ghost, who had a cape, who's more Zorro-like. There's
Batman isn't that much.
That's
older.
a different universe.
That doesn't make any sense. Right.
Yeah,
Adam and I can bicker with this later. Anyway, that's a minorly interesting aside. Back to your segment.
It is interesting. Good movie. So I'm going to give one example in which a cape doesn't necessarily seem to be derived from Superman. So Tuxedo Mask in Sailor Moon, the greatest manga and anime series ever made, has a cape. He does not fly. Well, in the manga, they all kind of fly. But his cape will drape behind him like it does when Superman flies, when he jumps around. So Tuxedo Mask's design is based on Arsène Lupin, who is a thief character from novels and short stories by French writer Maurice Leblanc. So Lupin dressed in a tuxedo and a top hat with a cane and is often portrayed with a cape or a cloak. In Tuxedo Mask's first appearance in the first chapter of the Sailor Moon manga, Sailor Moon comments that he looks like Arsène Lupin. So the character Lupin III from the popular manga series by Monkey Punch is a descendant of the thief Lupin, but his outfit does not resemble Arsène Lupin's at all. Fun side fact, Sayako, who is the alter ego of Sailor Starfighter in Sailor Moon, wears a red suit with a yellow tie, which is identical to one of Lupin III's outfits. Was this intentional to say it was kind of a stand-in for Tuxedo Mask? I have no idea, but I think the resemblance is a little bit more than coincidence. So, one more character. When looking up the 1930s pro wrestlers, I saw images of pro wrestling women, and I thought they looked a bit like Wonder Woman. Low-cut top with exposed shoulders, short shorts, and the belt, which looks similar. Evidently, Wonder Woman's colors are inspired by the Star-Spangled Banner, the U.S. flag. The character first appeared in 1941 during the Second World War, so that was meant to be a patriotic costume. All right, so I have to talk a bit about Sailor Moon again.
Have to, yes.
I have to. What's the deal with Sailor Moon's outfit, right?
What's the deal with Sailor Moon's outfit?
So Sailor Moon and the other Sailor Guardians have a uniform which is referred to as a Sailor Fuku, right? And that looks like a sailor uniform. It's mostly the scarf that gives it that look, but also the blouse called a midi blouse, in reference to midmanship, a sailing term. So the scarf, it's kind of like a Donald Duck outfit. The blue collar, it's kind of square in the back. It goes into a V in the front. There's usually a single or double white line along the border. And they're different colors. So in Sailor Moon, they're all sorts of different colors, though often they're blue.
But they usually have pants.
They usually have pants, yes. Donald Duck does not. Sailor Moon doesn't actually do any sailing, though in episode 42 of the anime, she uses the Luna Pen to transform into an actual sailor because she needs to drive a boat. That sailor uniform has some similarities to her school uniform and transformed Sailor Moon outfit. It's all very silly.
Adam, this sounds like false advertising. No sailing, no mooning. I mean, what kind of name is this?
There is a moon. She does come from the moon. She's actually reincarnated from a person who was born on the moon.
Oh, well then, okay, I take everything I said back.
So there was an episode, so that's an episode where we learned about Sailor V's past. It wasn't dubbed in the 90s, so some fans may not have seen it. So why does Sailor Moon have a sailor uniform? Well, it's inspired by Japanese school uniforms, which are also called sailor fuku. But why do Japanese school uniforms look like sailor uniforms? I just keep getting further back in the question here. So this dates back to the 1920s when school uniforms started to be styled after European and American style Navy uniforms. But these weren't directly inspired by those naval uniforms, but rather by the sailor suit inspired clothing worn by European children, which in turn were inspired by sailor dresses, a popular trend among American teenage girls in the early 20th century. By the mid 20th century, this was mainly worn by children, but the style of school uniforms persisted in Japan and was quite common in the early 1990s when Sailor Moon was created. To further complicate this issue, Sailor Moon wasn't the first. So before Sailor Moon, there was another manga first published in 1991 by the same author, which was called Codename Sailor V. Sailor V also wore a Sailor Fuku style uniform, similar in colors to Sailor Moon's, but with some differences, like shoulder pads and her mask. But Sailor V was a story of a single girl and her cat fighting crime and a superhero team manga, more similar to sort of Super Sentai series, which also inspired series creator Naoko Takeuchi, was more marketable as an anime series. So in this case, they did plan to do an anime along with the manga. So Sailor Moon was created along with her friends, and so I suppose the colored variants of the Sailor Fuku would be inspired by Super Sentai series, which themselves were inspired by the 1970s Japanese Spider-Man series. So there's just a web of inspiration, pun intended.
I was about to say. Wah, wah.
And then there are other superheroes we could get into. A lot of them. Goku's outfit is inspired by those of Shaolin monks. Captain America, like Wonder Woman, is basically wearing an American flag, as he was also created during the Second World War. Iron Man's costume is based on the popular barbecue condiments ketchup and mustard. And a sidebar on Donald Duck. Donald Duck, who has a sailor-style uniform, is not himself a sailor either. It was simply the style at the time, though there are some who say that Donald has been in the Navy or had military service. One 1942 cartoon has him being drafted, but in that one, they remove his Navy-style uniform and put him in fatigues. So that doesn't really support anything about the costume. His costume wouldn't come from his enlisted time. In the DuckTales cartoon, Donald leaves his nephews with Scrooge to join the Navy. So that suggests, again, that he's in the Navy. And one bonus fun one. The comic book character Bishop first appeared in the Uncanny X-Men in 1991. Bishop is black. He has a blue outfit with yellow stripes on it. He wears a bright red scarf. The character bears a striking resemblance to the outfit worn by child actor Gary Coleman on the cover of a 1981 issue of the Electric Company magazine. The cover states, "All aboard with Gary Coleman," as he's dressed as a train conductor. I think there's no doubt that this was the inspiration for Bishop's design. I think Darren disagrees with me on that.
I think it could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. No doubt, beyond a reasonable doubt. Maybe that's a better phrasing.
So I'll put the images in the show notes so you can just do a quick Google of like Bishop Gary Coleman, and you can judge for yourself. Superhero uniforms are a bit like almost any clothes. Do you know why our shirts have collars or why we wear ties? Why the button flaps on men's versus women's clothes are on different sides? There are historical reasons for all of these things if we dig enough to find them. So Superman is a circus strongman who's wearing a cape to maybe look like Zorro or maybe so he can fly, while most other caped heroes are likely based on him. They all surely have their own complex series of inspirations, which were perhaps obvious at the time and forgotten by most modern audiences. All part of the backstory for our myths and legends of our modern age.
Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. Made me think of the Simpsons line, which was the style at the time.
Yes.
Good job, Adam. One might think I actually suggested Adam do this segment or put him up to it, but no, I was surprised. I'm like, Adam's doing a Superman-related segment. That's great. That's great. It is interesting to think about why things are the way they are and how things came to be. And of course, we don't want to have the single cause fallacy, but there are reasons that are more plausible than others about how things happen, and things don't happen for no reason.
Yeah, and sometimes, like, if the creators of Superman were around today, there'd probably just be a podcast for someone to ask, and we'd have a definitive answer, and there would be like a Wikipedia citation to explain why his costume's like that. But we can't go back in time.
Well, yes. At the same time, humans are fallible. Like, I don't exactly remember.
Oh, probably
why we decided that.
Or they conflate the reason.
Correct.
And
or they just make up something.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, why didn't you have him fly initially? Why did he only jump? I don't know. It seems like, why not? Now it says like, why wouldn't you have him fly?
Because people don't fly.
Yeah, exactly. It just seemed too super. And then, eventually he had too many powers, right? We'll give him one more power, give him another power, and he becomes almost invincible. Well, thank you, Adam. Exploring a torturous segue. So Superman, maybe he's wearing that stuff because when he's flying, it gets cold up there, right? Because if you're close to the ground, it gets too hot, you could die from heat stroke. And Superman, lucky for him, has bullets bounce off him, but not everyone is so lucky. So we're in a bit of a heat wave when we're recording this, early July, and even more so if you happen to be in Europe, especially certain parts of Southern Europe. It's absolutely brutal, and people are forecasting lots of deaths, and there's already been a lot recorded, and that's terrible. Along with that news of the heat waves are accompanying stories and comments about how Europe has so much less air conditioning than Canada and the United States. So I was on the Facebook the other day and saw someone say that Europe has more deaths from heat than the US from guns. This was surprising to me, so I did a quick query on my phone, and it said that was true even per capita.
Yeah, that was the first challenge I had when I heard that. Yeah, is it really the same?
175,000 heat-related causes annually in Europe, according to the UN, the World Health Organization, which means about 23.5 per 100,000 people. We want comparable units, so deaths per 100,000 is often used, especially for homicides. U.S. firearm deaths indicate approximately 48,000 Americans die from gun-related injuries each year. This translates to about 14 deaths per 100,000. Much less than the 23.5.
Still much higher than I'd like, but yes.
Well, of course, yes. So the idea goes that Europeans would do well to be less smug about the absurdity of U.S. gun violence and more concerned about their own lack of air conditioning. I mentioned this idea to Adam, and he mentioned he covered air conditioning last year and how many people in Europe die from it. During that segment, he told me I supposedly looked up the comparison to the U.S. gun deaths in real time, and we put it in the show.
Yep.
So, episode 717 came out October 7th, 2025, and 17 minutes in, Darren says, quote, "You have a greater risk of dying from heat in Europe than you do from getting shot in the United States."
Good
quote.
podcast.
Shame on me. While we like to present facts and information on this show, we also encourage cognitive humility and promote understanding all the ways our brains are flawed. So, when I saw that Facebook post, I clearly had no recollection of something I definitively knew beforehand as I looked it up. Rarely is there a nice recording to humble oneself, but here it's pretty clear. Yep. I just forgot. And even though I know all this, it still feels like a new fact, right? So, that's that? Well, not quite. When I asked Gemini this time, after talking to Copilot, it provided this. U.S. firearms, the overall U.S. gun death rate in 2024 sat at 12.8 deaths per 100,000. Before it was 14. European heat. Europe's average heat mortality rate for the summer of 2024 was 11.7 deaths per 100,000.
Yes.
Now expressed as deaths per million, which is a little less than the U.S. gun-related deaths. Well, now, that's different. So here we have deaths from heat in Europe being less than U.S. gun deaths. What's going on?
I remember from my segment, there was maybe a bit of a range in unreliable numbers.
Well, that's definitely at least half true.
Yeah.
So once again, definitions are critical. Some research looks at 35 European countries, while other research uses about 53 countries.
Oh, well, that's totally different.
A little bit.
Especially if some are warmer than others.
Exactly, and they're in Central Asia.
Yes.
So the World Health Organization has something called the European region, and this does include, indeed, parts of Central Asia. And then, well, wait a minute. 53, that sounds like there's definitely more countries than Europe has. So I Google it, and it's not even clear how many countries are in Europe.
Oh, that's good.
Where the answer is, usually it says 44 or 47.
Yeah.
If you're into geography, please weigh in and lay your opinion down.
I can't believe Darren said there was 44 countries in Europe. That's so ignorant.
There's
That's
clearly
just like the
45, right? I am from one of those two countries that often not included.
Yes.
And then someone else is like, clearly there's not. That country shouldn't be included.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Of course, if you have 44 countries versus 47, this could change a lot of the stats, numerators and denominators, depending on the country. Additionally, macro averages hide regional hotspots. For example, in some specific areas, the numbers spike dramatically. So in Greece, this is 2024, again, there was a heat wave, it's 57 per 100,000. I remember the stat I gave you was around 12 or 11.
Yeah, I remember when I looked it up, it was like most of these people weren't actually in England. They were in other European countries. Yeah.
Bulgaria, 53. And then we're going to firearm deaths. Missouri, 17, which is also much higher than the 12. Should also note that most heat-related deaths in Europe are older women, while most gun-related deaths in the U.S. are young men. So my casual line of you're more likely to die from this than that, it really much depends on your demographics.
Yes. Older women are less likely to get killed by gun violence.
A lot less.
Yeah.
Right. So what could we conclude here? Well, it depends on how you define Europe is the first thing. As well, direct deaths versus heat-related or gun-related will affect the numbers.
Yeah.
And it can be hard to do these stats, but we do have smart people trying to talk about excess mortality, trying to compare things. Because rarely when someone dies, does it say like too hot or too much heat.
Yeah, that's fair.
There's something else that overwhelmed the system, but the heat is ascribed the main cause, or overall they can do like sort of aggregate stats and they can deduce or infer that the heat was the main reason. So we have these extreme heat waves of the last few years, and they've dragged Europe's per capita numbers up into the exact same statistical ballpark as U.S. gun violence. So here's how the rate per 100,000 people compare. This is over a longer time period, because that's the other thing. I thought, well, maybe things are just different the past couple of years. Right?
That 1 year where it was hot, maybe it was
correct.
It was comparable.
Right. Now, I did learn, before I get to these stats, that Europe has put in more air conditioning, and they have managed heat more. But the heat has also increased.
Oh, of course.
So you don't get the positive effect of being able to address more heat-related deaths because the heat keeps going up.
But in theory, you should be able to offset the increased number of deaths due to the increase in temperature with air conditioning, if it's fairly widespread.
Well, the thing is, air conditioning, so say the experts, just moves the heat around.
Of course, but like...
if you had it widespread
the older people are where the air conditioning is. Correct,
but the thing is, usually it's poorer people who may not be able to afford it.
Fair.
And then they're going to get even hotter. Because it's displaced, the heat sort of moves to them, so to speak, is the concern. So I guess if it was truly implemented everywhere, right, or at least
easily accessible,
or like even just more in hospitals and other places.
Yeah, that's
and
fair.
It's not that Europe does not have air conditioning; it does, and it is legal to have air conditioning in most parts of Europe. That's another myth that gets kind of bandied about. So that is not necessarily the issue. It's more just that people just didn't really need it. For so many years.
It's not as hot.
It's not as hot. It's not as part of their culture. They thought, oh, it's just a few days or it's just a week or two. We can manage, right? Not the end of the world, but that's not the case as much as it used to be, for sure. So some quick stats, which, tables are always tricky in audio, but if we go from 2015 to 2021, the average for U.S. firearm death rate, again, per 100,000, we have about, we'll say, 12 to 14 and a half, all right? And then for Europe heat deaths, again, 2015 to 2021, we have about 1 to 4. So 1 to 4 is a lot less than the 11 or 12 we've been talking about. So clearly, U.S. firearms from 2015 to 2021, much, much more dangerous, much more likely to. The rate is 3 to 4 times, 10 times as much, depending how you look at the numbers.
Interesting.
But if we go to 2022, the firearm is about 14 and the Europe heat death is 12. Wow. So it's still firearms, but now it's pretty close. And 2023, we have, getting in decimals here, 13.8 versus 9.4. Again, U.S. firearms, 2024, 12.8, 11.7. This is, again, U.S. firearms, but a difference of just 1.1. So based on this table and the stats at the beginning, it does seem that U.S. firearms are more dangerous than lack of heat in Europe, again, depending on who you define Europe. And so what I said last year was incorrect, and that Facebook post was also incorrect that I commented on. So aside from the data themselves, why did I do this segment? Well, to highlight the fallibility of memory, number one, and to urge caution when doing a quick search that may not be as clear as it first appears.
Yeah.
I used AI both times, but I think what's happened is that 180,000 number from the World Health Organization, 170,000, it's over 3 years. but the AIs are picking it up as if it's 1 year.
Yeah.
So then it's this dramatic, clear
sounds really bad.
difference. Correct.
Yeah, of course.
Aside from, of course, what counts as Europe, but like, no, it's about 60,000 a year, right? That's what the average would be. So, in conclusion, it's best to always dig in a bit, interrogate the answer, and explore to have greater confidence when you're trying to understand an issue.
It's an excellent point. This is a stat I've quoted because we mentioned it on our episode that I did remember because that was my segment. It is maybe true enough to say that U.S. gun deaths are comparable to deaths from heat in Europe.
Yes, now we can say that.
Even though they are higher. Not to say that U.S. gun deaths aren't a problem, but it's more to highlight, like, if we all agree that U.S. gun deaths are a problem, which I think most people, even Americans who support gun rights do agree, then we can agree that the deaths of heat in Europe are a problem. And in my view, preventable. I understand the challenges. We got into a bunch during my segment. It's not just cost, but there's practical issues, the buildings and all sorts of stuff. But you said it's not illegal to have air conditioning. I think that is generally true. There are still local regulations in municipalities and like whatever the equivalent of their HAOs, the type of thing they have over there that will restrict people. And that's really unfortunate. And the other thing is, like, for some reason, especially in the last week and a half, it's become this super political thing.
Yeah.
Where air conditioning is like right-wing coded. And it's just like, can we not make another thing political, please? Like, people are dying. We just want them to be more comfortable and healthier.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. As you know, when you say something's preventable, it's like, if everyone's kind of reasonable.
Yeah.
But then, because humans are humans, not everything's so preventable. I mean, some people think a lot of gun deaths in states are preventable.
Oh, they are.
Well, they are, and clearly they're not, because people can't prevent them because of the culture. And so it could be similarly, the culture is structured in Europe such that it's just going to be harder to do these things.
Sure.
I think air conditioning in Europe is more likely to increase versus reduce gun violence in the States. We'll see.
Sure.
We'll see. I mean, now, to be fair, if we're really comparing stats, there's also heat-related deaths in the U.S., and there's also, of course, gun violence in Europe.
And I think the heat-related deaths in U.S. are not as well captured. I think that is one of the challenges as well.
I imagine the rate would be lower than Europe. Again, I'm just creating future segments for myself as I say pseudo-false things. But it could be, if you compare them both, the States does work out much worse, just because I think there's many fewer gun deaths in Europe.
Oh, yeah. Right.
Oh,
so you're saying, are there more heat deaths in the U.S. than gun deaths in Europe? Yeah, there's very few gun deaths in Europe, so they just don't have guns, right?
Yeah.
Well, it depends on the country. Like in the UK, you'd have almost no gun deaths. Yeah. You'd have like a few stabbing deaths, and that's it. Whereas in the States, I think you probably do have people that don't have air conditioning and that are going to die of heat.
And even France, it just depends. Like, is John Wick there at that time? Because it really skyrockets the numbers.
Absolutely. John Wick came through town one day, and they had like 700% more gun deaths that year.
You just have to exclude it. I mean, sometimes you have to exclude certain data points. It's just not representative.
Yep.
Well, thank you for joining us once again, listeners. Adam talked to us about why Superman dressed that way and some historical reasons. And I talked to you about European heat-related deaths versus United States gun-related deaths, mainly as an illustration of be careful what you hear and trust, even from us. And sometimes you really have to interrogate some numbers before you feel more confident in your beliefs. Until next time, think better to act better.
Peace out, cuboids.
For show notes or to discuss this episode, visit our Facebook page and website at trcpodcast.com. For general inquiries or to send a topic or parody suggestion, email info@trcpodcast.com. Help support the show by leaving a review on iTunes and liking us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter @TRC_podcast.